I thought I was just a bus driver, a nobody coasting through life with nothing but regret in the rearview. But the day I pulled a stranger out of death's hands, I wasn't saving a man. I was stepping into a game I never knew existed. You never really expect your life to change while you're staring at a cracked windshield in the middle of a Tuesday. I was just driving the number 22 line, same as every day, same stoplights, same grimy faces pressed up against the bus windows, same sad coffee smells. I'd given up hoping for anything different a long time ago. You get used to surviving on fumes when you're running out of dreams. It was about 5:17 p.m. when it happened. The time sticks in my head like a splinter. I was cutting across Main toward the hospital loop when I spotted him, a man standing way too close to the edge of the sidewalk, swaying like a flag in a thunderstorm. Tall, expensive coat. Something about the way he stood there made my gut twist. Call it instinct or dumb luck, but I was already easing the brakes before it even went down. The car came out of nowhere, silver, low to the ground, flying like it was being chased by a devil. Tires screaming. Horn blaring. And him? Frozen. Like he was seeing the end and couldn't move fast enough to dodge it. I didn't think. I just moved. Leapt off the bus like some damn fool action hero, lungs burning, heart hammering. I shoved him hard and the car missed him by maybe 3 inches, enough that the wind off it slapped both of us sideways. We hit the sidewalk like dropped bricks. Hard enough to knock the breath clean out of my chest. He lay there blinking at the sky, disoriented, jacket ripped at the shoulder, hands scraped raw. And me? I was laughing like an idiot, heart still jackhammering, feeling the crazy shock of being alive. You all right, man? I asked, hauling him upright. He nodded, dazed. Yeah, I think I am. Sirens wailed in the distance, probably someone else had called it in. The bus passengers were staring, a few with their phones out, recording because that's what you do these days instead of helping. I brushed off my jacket, feeling the buzz of adrenaline starting to wear off. That's when he really looked at me, not like I was some nobody bus driver, but like I was something rare. Important. You saved my life, he said, voice low, almost in awe. I shrugged. Guess it was just your lucky day. He smiled, slow and strange, like he knew something I didn't. No. It's yours. And then he handed me his card. Simple. Heavy stock. Black letters so clean they practically cut the air. Richard Vail. Venture capitalist. I didn't recognize the name. Not right then. But I should have. Because Richard Vail wasn't just some rich guy. He was the guy, the kind you only read about in magazines you can't afford, the guy who turned dust into empires, dreams into dynasties. I slipped the card into my pocket, dazed, and got back on the bus. But the whole way home, I kept feeling it like the universe had just shifted under my boots and nobody but me noticed. And it wasn't done shifting yet. Not even close. The card burned a hole in my pocket all night. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that moment again, the screech of tires, the blast of wind, the sheer, impossible luck of it all. And him. Richard Vail. Smiling like he knew my life was about to get ripped up by the roots. By morning, I'd convinced myself it didn't mean anything. Probably just a rich guy's way of saying thanks without meaning it. People like that don't follow up. People like me? We get forgotten. I pulled into the bus depot around 7, the lot still dark except for a few flickering lamps. Same coffee in the same cracked cup. Same locker with the broken hinge. Same uniform that smelled faintly of grease and defeat. But when I clocked in, my manager, old gruff McTeague with his thinning hair and perpetual coffee stain on his shirt, flagged me down. You got a call, he grunted, handing me a pink sticky note with a number scribbled in blocky handwriting. I stared at it. The number wasn't familiar. Who was it? McTeague shrugged. Said it was urgent. Some big shot sounding guy. My heart thudded hard once against my ribs. Then twice. Maybe. I slipped into the dingy employee lounge and punched the number into the cracked payphone. Yeah, we still had one. The line clicked once, then again, before a smooth voice answered. Is this Daniel Price? I hesitated. Yeah. Who's asking? This is Richard Vail. We met yesterday. You pulled me out of the jaws of death. I laughed awkwardly, rubbing the back of my neck. Yeah, I guess I did. There was a pause, a loaded, crackling silence. I'd like to meet you, he said finally. Properly. I have a proposition for you. Proposition. You gave me back my life, Daniel. I'd like to give you back yours. I swallowed hard. Every part of me screamed this wasn't real. Guys like me don't get propositions from billionaires. We get bounced rent checks and shut-off notices. We get excuses and broken promises. Still, what else did I have to lose? Okay, I said. When? Now. I'll send a car. An hour later, I stood outside the depot while a black Lincoln rolled up to the curb like something out of a movie. The driver, a guy in a dark suit who could have passed for Secret Service, stepped out and tipped his head toward the back seat. This way, sir. Sir. That was a first. I slid into the car, feeling like an imposter in my wrinkled jacket and scuffed boots. Vail sat across from me. impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my yearly salary. He smiled, easy and unreadable. "Good to see you, Daniel." "You too," I mumbled, still waiting for someone to tell me this was a prank. The car purred away from the curb, sliding through the city like a shark through water. "I've been thinking," Vale said, steepling his fingers in front of him. "You risked your life for mine. That's not something money can buy." I shrugged. "Wasn't thinking, just reacted." "Exactly," he said, eyes gleaming. "And that's rare. The world's full of people who hesitate, people who calculate. But you moved." I didn't know what to say to that, so I stayed quiet. He leaned forward slightly, voice dropping to a near whisper. "I want to offer you a chance, Daniel. A real one. To build something. To stop driving other people's dreams around and start driving your own." I blinked. "What are you talking about?" He reached into his jacket and pulled out a thick, leather-bound folder. Inside, business licenses, permits, accounts, paperwork already half filled out with my name at the top. "I'm investing in you," Vale said simply. "You're going to run your own business. Whatever you want. I'll bankroll the first year. After that, it's yours." I just stared at him. "But why me?" He smiled again, that same unsettling, knowing smile. "Because sometimes fate taps you on the shoulder," he said. "And sometimes you tap it right back." I laughed short, disbelieving. "What's the catch?" I asked. He shrugged, sitting back. "No catch. Just one rule." I waited. "You have to dream bigger than you ever have before," he said, voice like a steel trap wrapped in velvet. "No safety nets. No half measures. Full tilt or nothing." My heart was hammering so hard it made my ears ring. This couldn't be real. And yet, there it was lying in my lap. Paper and ink and raw, terrifying hope. "Think about it," Vale said smoothly, as the car eased to a stop outside a towering hotel. "Take a day. Or an hour. Hell, take 5 minutes." He smiled again, wider this time, shark's teeth behind polished charm. "But if you walk away, you'll never get another chance." The door clicked open beside me. A choice cold and sharp. I stepped out onto the sidewalk, folder clutched tight in my hands, the city roaring around me like a beast. And for the first time in a long, long time, I felt alive. But deep down, somewhere my brain hadn't caught up to yet, a whisper stirred. Something about this was too easy, too perfect. And perfect things? They always come with a price. I stood there for a long time, staring up at that hotel, the folder still clutched to my chest like it might vanish if I loosened my grip. Every rational part of me screamed it was a setup, a con, a trick, a joke at the expense of some poor broke bus driver. I mean, come on. Who just hands a golden ticket to a guy who smells like diesel fumes and yesterday's coffee? But another part of me, the part that hadn't completely died yet, whispered, what if it's real? By the time the sun dropped behind the skyline, I'd already made my choice. I wasn't walking away. The next few days passed in a blur. Paperwork, meetings, signing things I barely understood, each page like another step through a door I wasn't sure I had the right to walk through. Vale didn't micromanage. He just pointed toward opportunity and waited to see if I'd move. And somehow I did. We set up a company, Price Transport Solutions, a sleek little operation meant to provide high-end, flexible courier services. Something faster, sharper, more personal than the big trucking companies could offer. Custom runs, white glove service, urgent deliveries, precious cargo. The kind of thing that, in the right circles, could make a killing. I didn't have to build it alone either. Vale connected me to people. Lawyers, accountants, marketing guys. All of them efficient, polished, terrifyingly competent. They called me sir and nodded at everything I said. And every time they did, I felt like a kid playing dress-up in his old man's suit. Still, I showed up. Every damn day. I rented a tiny office space downtown. Glass walls, uncomfortable chairs, a cheap coffee maker that never worked right. Bought a couple used delivery vans. Hired 2 drivers, both out-of-work guys who reminded me of myself, just needing someone to bet on them. By the 3rd week, we were operational. Barely. It was the first time in years I woke up with a reason bigger than survival. First time in years I wasn't living in fear of the next bill, the next breakdown. Hope was a dangerous thing. It makes you careless. It makes you think maybe, just maybe, you're finally safe. That's when the first package showed up. It was a Tuesday. I remember because I'd just finished unclogging the office bathroom, hands raw and covered in cheap soap, when Mia, my assistant Vale's recommendation, buzzed me over the intercom. "Hey, Dan? You got a delivery." I frowned. We weren't expecting anything. I wiped my hands on my jeans and headed for the front. There, sitting on the counter, was a plain brown box. No return address. Just my name, handwritten in blocky, uneven letters. I picked it up. It wasn't heavy. Just dense. Like whatever was inside carried more weight than its size could explain. "You want me to open it?" Mia asked, half joking. "Nah, I got it," I said, trying to sound casual. But something about it made the hairs on my neck stand up. I carried it into my office, closed the door, and sat down. Tore the tape. Flipped the lid. Inside was a single object. An old, rusted bus token. One of the old-school ones we used to use back before the swipe cards took over. Stamped metal. Worn smooth by a million hands and 1,000 forgotten commutes. And beneath it a scrap of paper. One line, typed in all caps. "Remember where you came from." I stared at it, stomach twisting. Was it a joke? A threat? A warning? I didn't know. All I knew was that the safe little bubble I'd been living in just popped like a soap bubble. And somewhere, someone was laughing. I tried to shake it off. Focused on the business. Pushed harder. Took more clients. Longer routes. Riskier cargo. Money started to come in, not fast, but steady. But so did the weirdness. First it was the token. Then it was the calls. Late at night, after I locked up, my cell would buzz unknown number. I'd answer and there'd be nothing but breathing on the other end. Once I thought I heard someone whisper my name. But it could have been my mind playing tricks. Could have been. Or maybe not. One night, I found a note taped to the office door. "Everything comes at a cost." No signature. No explanation. I didn't tell Mia. Didn't tell my drivers. Didn't even tell Vale. Because some broken, stubborn part of me thought if I just worked harder, pushed faster, I could outrun whatever was creeping toward me. I told myself it was just bad luck. Coincidence. Because the truth was too terrifying to face. The truth that maybe I hadn't saved a billionaire by accident. Maybe I'd stumbled into something much bigger. Something I wasn't meant to survive. You ever feel like you're walking across a frozen lake? You can't see the cracks, not yet, but you know they're there. Just waiting. Just daring you to take one more step. That's how life started to feel. Every day, business got a little better. We landed a big contract moving high-value tech equipment between corporate offices. The kind of deal that made my drivers high-five each other and dream about bonuses. I smiled. Shook hands. Played the part. But inside, I was waiting for the ice to break. Because the signs weren't subtle anymore. First it was the feeling like someone was watching me. Not just casual, passing glances, the heavy kind of watching, the kind you feel between your shoulder blades. Then it was the van. We parked our delivery vans in a secured garage behind the office. Nothing fancy, chain link fence, security camera, cheap floodlights. One night, after a late drop-off, I pulled in and found one of the vans sitting wide open. Doors swinging, keys still in the ignition. Problem was, we hadn't scheduled any runs that night. And when I climbed inside to check, there was another box sitting on the driver's seat. Same brown paper. Same blocky handwriting. My throat tightened so hard it hurt. I yanked it open, hands shaking harder than I'd admit, and inside, neatly wrapped in tissue paper, was another relic. A cracked rearview mirror. The old kind from the city buses. The kind that lets the driver watch every face on board. And taped to it? Another note. "You can't see what's coming." I staggered back like I'd been punched. This wasn't just intimidation anymore. It was personal. Someone knew who I was. What I used to be. Where I came from. And they wanted me scared. They were succeeding. That night, I tried to call Vale. Straight to voicemail. I left a message, calm, professional, asking if we could meet. "Important business matter," I said, like I wasn't about 3 seconds from losing my mind. No call back. Next day, same thing. It gnawed at me. Scraped at my ribs like broken glass. Because if I was in over my head and I was Richard, Vale was supposed to be my life raft. But now it felt like he was the one pushing me under. It was Mia who cracked it open. She wasn't supposed to. She'd been organizing some files while I was out running deliveries. Standard stuff, invoices, client forms, boring as hell. But she found something weird in the company incorporation paperwork. A second signature. Buried deep in the fine print. Not just mine. Another name listed as a silent partner. But it wasn't Richard Vale. It was something else. Vale Industrial Securities Holding LLC. Not a venture capital firm. Not an investment group. A private security company. One with a reputation so dark you had to dig 5 layers deep into conspiracy forums to find anything about it. Rumors about black ops. Illegal surveillance. Disappearances. The kind of company that didn't just make money, it made people vanish. Mia slid the papers across my desk with wide eyes. "I wasn't snooping," she said, voice low. "I swear. But this isn't normal, Dan." I stared at the documents until the words blurred. Security company. Silent partner. My name tied to it in legal ink. I was a bus driver. A nobody. What the hell had I gotten wrapped into? I picked up my phone, hands cold, heart hammering, and called Vale again. Straight to voicemail. This time I didn't leave a message. This time I started packing. Because whatever dream he'd sold me, it wasn't just poisoned. It was a trap. I didn't make it to the door. Someone knocked, sharp, fast, authoritative. Mia jumped. I froze. Another knock. 3 men stood outside. Dark suits. Blank faces. No badges. No names. The one in the middle stepped forward, held up a hand like a magician revealing a trick. In his palm? Another bus token. Time to come with us, Mr. Price, he said. Not a request. A command. Mia started to say something, maybe scream, maybe protest, but I shook my head slightly. Don't. Not now. I knew better. I grabbed my jacket, my wallet, slipped the cracked mirror into my pocket without thinking, and I stepped into the night, into the trap I hadn't seen coming, into the story I didn't know was mine to finish. Yet, they didn't cuff me, didn't rough me up, didn't say a damn word, just marched me across the parking lot into the back of a blacked-out SUV that smelled like leather and cold, clinical fear. The windows were tinted darker than midnight. Couldn't see a thing out. Couldn't tell where we were going. The only sound was the hum of the engine and the occasional click of the driver adjusting something I couldn't see. We drove for what felt like hours. Could have been minutes. Time melted into one long, sticky stretch of dread. I kept my hands loose in my lap, breathing slow. Come outside. Inside? I was screaming. Finally, the SUV rolled to a stop. The door opened. Out, one of the suits said. I climbed out into a private garage, all concrete and echoes. No signs. No cameras. Just an elevator at the far end. They herded me toward it without touching me. Like they didn't have to. The elevator doors slid open, swallowing us. No buttons inside. No panels. It just moved down. Deep. I clenched the cracked mirror tighter in my jacket pocket like it was some kind of anchor. Some kind of shield against whatever nightmare waited at the bottom of this rabbit hole. When the doors opened again, it was into a hallway. Polished floors. Frosted glass walls. A cold, humming buzz in the air like a beehive trapped inside steel. And at the end of it, Richard Vale, standing behind a massive glass desk, smiling like the devil welcoming a sinner home. Daniel, he said warmly. Good to see you. I stepped forward slowly, blood roaring in my ears. What the hell is this? I snapped. He spread his hands, that same easy charm slipping over his features like a mask. This, he said, is the real opportunity one promised you. I didn't sit. I didn't speak. I waited. He circled around the desk, slow, predatory, and leaned against it, arms crossed. You think I just picked you out of the goodness of my heart? He asked, voice dropping into something darker. You think the universe just dropped a man like me into your lap because of luck? I didn't answer. Because I was finally seeing it. Seeing him. Richard Vale wasn't just some investor. He was a recruiter. And I was the recruit. You moved without hesitation, he said. You risked everything without calculating. That's rare. That's valuable. I shook my head slowly, disgust rising like bile. You bought me, I said. He chuckled. No, Daniel. I woke you up. He pushed a slim black file across the desk. Inside? Photos. Grainy surveillance shots. Of me. Of my apartment. Of my few sad friends. Of every mistake I'd ever made. You've been watched for a long time, he said casually. Evaluated. Tested. I slammed my palm on the desk, hard enough to rattle the glass. I didn't ask for this. No, he agreed. You earned it. He straightened up, that gleam in his eyes sharpening to a razor's edge. You're going to work for us now. Doing what? His smile widened, slow and deadly. Transporting things. People. Secrets. I staggered back like he'd punched me. I'm not some, I choked, couldn't even get the words out. Courier, he finished for me. Asset handler. Cleaner. Whatever you want to call it. I stared at him, heart pounding so hard it made my vision blur. You think I'm just gonna say yes? He shrugged. You already did. The day you took the folder. The day you signed your name. He wasn't wrong. I'd been so hungry for change, so desperate for a future, I hadn't read the fine print. I'd handed them my life. And they were cashing it in. I don't remember lunging. Just the crash of my fist against his face. The way his head snapped sideways. The way the suits moved instantly, grabbing me, twisting my arms, slamming me into the cold floor. Vale wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, chuckling low. Good, he said. Fire. We'll need that. I struggled, but they pinned me like an insect. You have a choice, Daniel, Vale said, crouching down beside me. Work for us or disappear. My blood roared so loud I barely heard him. You think you can scare me into being your errand boy? I spat. He smiled almost gently. I don't need to scare you, he said. I just need you to understand. He leaned closer. You don't belong to yourself anymore. The suits hauled me up, dragging me toward another door, smaller, heavier. A prison, probably. Or a grave. But just before they shoved me through, I felt the cracked mirror in my pocket dig into my ribs. And I remembered something my old driving instructor once said, back when I was still stupid enough to believe in small dreams. The rear view shows you where you've been, but it can also show you who's chasing you. And right then, I decided. I wasn't going quietly. Not by a long shot. The door slammed behind me with the finality of a coffin lid. Small room. Bare concrete. No windows. A single flickering fluorescent overhead. Welcome to hell. I paced the perimeter, breathing hard, mind spinning 1,000 miles an hour. Every move I'd made since pulling Vale off that street corner was a thread leading here. Every decision, every stupid flicker of hope, a noose tightening around my own throat. But hope wasn't dead yet. Not if I could still move. Still think. Still fight. I pulled the cracked mirror out of my jacket, flipping it over in my palm. It wasn't magic. It wasn't a weapon. But it reminded me, you're not broken. You're still here. And sometimes, still here is enough. The lock clicked. I backed into the shadows instinctively, pressing flat against the wall just as the door swung open. One of the suits stepped inside, tall, square-jawed, dead-eyed. He scanned the room, didn't see me immediately. Big mistake. I moved fast. Low. Quiet. Grabbed the back of his neck, slammed his head into the concrete wall once, twice, until he sagged into a heap at my feet. No alarms. No shouts. They weren't expecting me to fight back. They thought I was just another desperate nobody. They were wrong. I slipped into the hallway. Empty, sterile, humming with the sound of hidden machines. Every door looked the same, anonymous, oppressive. I picked a direction and ran. No plan. Just instinct and adrenaline. Turned a corner too fast and almost barreled into another figure, smaller, faster. Mia. My heart stopped. She wasn't supposed to be here. But there she was, disheveled, eyes wide with terror and fury. She grabbed my arm. Move, she hissed. I didn't ask questions. Didn't waste breath. We ran. Past endless glass doors. Past rows of server racks and black-suited guards, too stunned to react. How the hell are you here? I gasped as we sprinted. I followed you, she said, voice tight. Something wasn't right. I knew it. I planted a tracker on your jacket. I stared at her like she'd grown wings. You are the craziest, bravest person I've ever met. Flatter me later, she snapped, yanking me down another hallway. Gunshots barked behind us, wild, panicked. A bullet ricocheted off the wall inches from my shoulder. We dove into a maintenance tunnel, narrow, dark, stinking of oil and fear. Mia pulled the hatch shut behind us, wedging a metal rod through the latch. For a moment, the world narrowed to just our ragged breathing and the distant thud of boots on concrete. You know the way out? I asked between gasps. She nodded, grim. Back entrance. Loading bay. They use it for black bag transfers. I saw the schematics. You memorized the schematics? I said, half laughing, half crying. She flashed a quick, fierce smile. Never underestimate an underpaid assistant. The tunnel twisted and turned, dropping us lower into the bowels of the building. At one point, we had to wade through ankle-deep water. Rats scattered ahead of us. Somewhere behind, faintly, alarms started to wail. Good. Let them know they lost control. We burst into a cavernous loading bay, half-lit, cluttered with crates stamped with fake shipping labels. A van idled near the far wall, one of my vans. Stolen. Used. My blood boiled hotter. We take it, Mia said. No argument here. We sprinted across the bay. Guards poured in behind us, shouting, firing. Bullets ripped through the air, slicing too close. I tackled Mia sideways just as a crate exploded into splinters above our heads. We scrambled up, lunged for the van. I jammed the key into the ignition, a lucky guess, or maybe the universe giving me a pass, and the engine roared to life. Mia dove into the passenger seat. I slammed the gas. The van peeled out of the bay, tires shrieking, smashing through a half-closed loading dock door like a battering ram. We hit the street at 40 miles an hour and didn't look back. Not right away. Not until we were 5 blocks away. Hearts hammering, blood singing, breathless and bruised but somehow still alive. Then, only then, did I glance in the rearview. Saw the building. A bland, anonymous office tower, shrinking into the distance. Saw the black SUVs swarming out like hornets. And saw the tiny reflection of Mia beside me, bloodied but grinning like a wolf. We weren't safe yet. Not even close. But we had something now we didn't before. Each other. And a very real, very personal reason to burn Richard Vale's empire to the ground. We didn't stop driving until the city fell away behind us. Until the lights blurred into a distant, dying fire. Mia guided me to a crumbling old service station off an abandoned highway. Broken windows. Weeds punching through cracked pavement. A dead place, forgotten by the world. Perfect. We holed up there, patching ourselves with first aid kits stolen from the van. Scraped knees, bruised ribs, shallow cuts. Nothing fatal. Nothing that mattered compared to what was coming. Mia unfolded a battered laptop from her bag, fingers flying over the keyboard. "What are you doing?" I asked, voice ragged. "Finishing what they started," she said grimly. I snagged some of their files while I was poking around. Backups. Insurance policies. I leaned over her shoulder. Encrypted folders flashed across the screen. Internal memos. Blackmail files. Financial trails leading straight back to Richard Vale. It was all there. Proof that Vale's company wasn't just about transport. It was about control. They didn't just move goods. They moved information. Moved people. Silenced whistleblowers. Disappeared competitors. Bought governments. And the newest, shiniest tool in their arsenal? Me. A nobody. A pawn. A face no one would ever suspect. Perfect for doing dirty jobs under the radar. I clenched my fists until my knuckles popped. "They built me like a weapon," I muttered. Mia looked up at me, eyes fierce. "Then maybe it's time you aim yourself at the right target." We planned fast. No time for second-guessing. Mia dumped the files onto a dozen flash drives, hid them in old oil cans and soda machines scattered around the station. Insurance. If we didn't make it out, the world would still hear the truth. And then, against every instinct I had, we went back. Straight toward the belly of the beast. We ditched the van 2 blocks from the tower. Switched to a junker truck, Mia hotwired like she was ordering takeout. Security was heavier now. Black suits posted at every entrance. Cameras sweeping the sidewalks. Drones buzzing overhead like angry metal wasps. Didn't matter. We had a way in. The sewers. Crude. Filthy. Brilliant. One of the loading bay tunnels ran straight into the old storm drain system beneath the city. Half the suits didn't even know it existed. We slithered through pitch-black tunnels, waist-deep in cold, stinking water. We were rats in the walls, and rats are survivors. Inside the building, everything smelled too clean, too polished. Mia led the way, moving like she belonged there. I followed, heart hammering, blood roaring. We made it to the server room. Rows of blinking machines. A cathedral of stolen lives and buried secrets. Mia plugged in a flash drive. Alarms screamed instantly, red lights spinning across the ceiling. "I thought you were good at this," I shouted over the blaring noise. She grinned, wild and defiant. "I am," she yelled back. "But they're paranoid. Knew this was gonna happen." Footsteps thundered toward us. Mia yanked the drive free and tossed it to me. "Go!" I didn't hesitate. I ran. Burst out of the server room just as a squad of suits rounded the corner, shouting, guns drawn. I ducked low, sprinted down the hallway, heart punching my ribs. Glass shattered around me. A bullet tore through my sleeve. Didn't stop. Couldn't. Made it to the stairwell. Pounded down flight after flight. Lungs burning. Legs screaming. Broke through a service door and spilled out onto the loading dock. Right into the path of Richard Vale. Standing there, alone, smiling. Like he'd been waiting. "Daniel," he said smoothly. "You can't win." I raised the flash drive between 2 fingers. "I don't have to win," I said. I tossed it onto the ground. And stomped. The drive shattered into 1,000 useless pieces. Vale blinked. Confused. Surprised. Then furious. "You idiot," he snarled. "You've just destroyed your only leverage." I smiled, slow, cold. "No," I said. "I destroyed yours." Sirens wailed in the distance, real ones this time. Red and blue lights bloomed on the horizon. Mia had set a dead man switch. If the data wasn't retrieved and uploaded within a certain window, it auto-dumped. To every news outlet, every government watchdog, every damn server in the free world. Everything. The blackmail. The contracts. The murders. All of it. Vale's empire wasn't crumbling. It was already rubble. I took a step forward, fists clenched. "You built your kingdom on people like me," I said. "On people you thought no one would ever miss." He opened his mouth, maybe to beg, maybe to threaten. Didn't matter. I hit him. One clean punch. Dropped him like a sack of trash. The suits hesitated, confused, panicked, leaderless. And then the floodgates opened. FBI. Journalists. Whistleblowers. The damn cavalry. Pouring into the building like a tidal wave. Sweeping it all away. Later, much later, after the dust settled, after the headlines screamed across every TV and newspaper, "Bus driver takes down secret empire," Mia and I sat on the roof of the old service station watching the sun rise. She handed me a coffee. Burnt and bitter. Perfect. You ever think about how close you came to just driving the bus forever? She asked, smiling softly. I stared at the horizon. I still am, I said. Just different passengers now. She laughed. And somewhere inside me, deep and fierce, I laughed too. Because for the first time in forever, the road ahead wasn't empty. It was wide open. And it belonged to me.